The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, morrismedialive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, we are back in studio. Welcome to Music and Conversation, presented to you by 4 Points Media, LLC. I am so excited to be here. I'm your host today, and I am here sitting in for D Nice. He's out, I think, on vacation. He may pop in, I'm not quite sure, but right now it's you and me. And I have a great show set up for you guys today. And I have my co-host here in the room with me, and her name is Lakesha Johnson.
Hello.
Hey, Lakesha. Lakesha is an amazing woman. She has accomplished so many things. She's a motivational speaker. She's in the medical field. She works with women of all ages. She works in a nonprofit where she serves our community at large. And she is here today, and she's got some great, exciting information she's going to share, number one. And number two, she's got this lady, this hot baller, shot caller in the house. Lakesha, tell us all about what you're doing today and who you're interviewing.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. So co-hosting is not my day job. This is one of my first opportunities. So you guys tell me if I should give up my day job or not. But I'm sitting here
yes.
with someone, maybe. I think I will give up my day job or not. So I am sitting here with a wonderful woman. I am so excited to come to know and understand who she is. Her name is Vicki Mack Lataillade, and she is here with us today. We're going to be talking to her about just some of the wonderful things she's done in her life, her accomplishments. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. They call her the shot caller, and we're going to learn why they call her the shot caller. I can't wait to hear about all this. So let me tell you about her. So Vicki Mack Lataillade has called the shots in an industry defined by innovators and radical rule breakers. When they told her she couldn't be an executive, she became the CEO of the largest and most successful independently owned gospel record labels in the world, known as Gospel Centric. If you guys remember that one, very major company. And when they told her many, many years ago, I imagine, that she couldn't have a gospel album without a big singer in the front, she went out and found the one and only Kirk Franklin and revolutionized the face of gospel music. So we're going to talk to her about how she just ended up and how her career path has gone. And also, I just want to mention, too, because this is an amazing list of, she has a long resume, y'all. She was a marketing consultant for movies such as Kingdom Come, The Preacher's Wife with Whitney Houston, Meteor Man, and some of the artists that she worked with include Kirk Franklin, Trinity 5-7, which was one of my favorites. Oh, I still listen to them. And Kurt Carr, Byron Cage, Walter Hawkins,
Wow.
David Hollister, Kelly Price. Okay, you're running down my gospel playlist now. So, I mean, the list goes on. And so we're going to hear from her. How are you doing today, Miss Vicki Mack?
Welcome.
Thank you. It's Grammys week is just over now,
Yes.
so I am tired. Yeah, but
How exciting.
right.
So, I have a lot of questions for you, but
Okay.
one of them, since the Grammys just happened, I think you were involved somehow. You were telling me what happened with the Grammys. What
well,
was your
there's a
experience?
new event that a gentleman named Jay Black is putting on where they commemorate and just really, celebrate all the nominees in the gospel categories. And I call it the gospel new, because it was full of a lot of new, young talent. And, we had some people there for sure who won Grammys last night. Sir the Baptist was there. We had Miranda Curtis came out. Of course, Erica
Campbell.
From Miriam.
Erica Campbell. I saw her.
And so many others. And this was the first year, went really great, but they have an award. That's in my name. And our first recipient, our first recipient was Miss Tracy Artist. So that'll be annual. And that makes me feel so good, and it makes me feel old too.
Oh, no, that's
so,
huge.
but it's
That's
a great thing, yeah. So that was the only award given in someone's name. So
how did it feel to be really honored in that way, like really deep down?
It just made me very happy, and Jay Black worked with me a few times, so to see how they're growing and how it's their turn now, it lets you. It's I told him it was legacy building, so it just gave me a very warm feeling. Just it made me want to cry really, but it makes you feel
cry?
like I didn't cry.
You did?
It wasn't. It was a hip. I call it. They had the gospel
Looking
beautiful
cute,
people
too cute
there.
to cry.
Girl, now I can be cute and still give an ugly cry, but it was very hip and posh and all that, and it just was very
Quite
cool.
an accomplishment.
Nice. Can I ask you, so when someone walks away with this award in your name, what does that mean? Like, what does that exude? I got the Vicki Mack Award. What does that mean? Like, in your honor? I mean, what do you want? What is your legacy behind that award?
I need them to be outstanding in the executive area, in the business area, in the entrepreneurial area.
I see.
So they need to embody those things for me to get.
I like that. You know
award.
why? Because I've heard so many artists become millionaires and lose everything.
Yeah.
Because they did not have the financial aspect under control.
And I mean, it can happen with people like me as well. I've made and lost many millions because there's not really someone that you can talk to about how to do this. So now
you're a trailblazer.
Yep.
You would be a trailblazer.
Painfully
Pioneer.
sometimes, but yeah. I think so, in the sense that I had no one to talk to. Some of the people I kind of talked to, of course, was Clarence Avant, who I worked with at Taboo when I was at RCA, worked on the Memphis Horns and stuff like that, and the late, great Gerald Busby from Motown. People like that who really helped me out, and people like Magic Johnson even who helped me understand we didn't have a real deep relationship, but we had some banking relationships.
Sure,
and so
sure. That's critical.
Yeah, he's known for his banking and financial savvy.
It is critical.
That's nice.
Yes. So many times we miss that piece.
Right.
And then, like I said earlier, it just kind of blows up if you don't have that foundation. And, one of the things I'd like to tell the audience is to make sure that when you are going into business, if you don't understand it, find somebody who does, right?
And the other thing I say, because it kind of is a painful area for me now, because I've got artists who say, you cheated me, you did this and that. And I'm like, look, first of all, I gave you $1 million. Let's start there. And number two, I thought you understood. Just like me, you got an attorney, you've got a manager, but this is the deal. You need to have people who specialize and understand that business. You can't have your cousin, your friend, your pastor, and stuff like that, and then come back to me 5, 10 later and say, you took this and you did that. Like I said, we always tried to be as generous as we could. We always, we had huge artists, but what can I say?
Well, you know what happens too. Once you might start small, and then suddenly everything blows up.
Right.
And then once it blows up.
Right. And then all these people say, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have. I said, but baby, you
were
there
you?
when they were sleeping on the couch, not doing nothing, and I had to pay for everything.
Right.
And everything. And the other thing was for us as blacks, I mean, like if somebody wanted to get to the Jay Leno show and they had a choir or this or that, we paid for everything. We paid for private jets. We paid the union dues. We paid all the extra things to have a big choir on that other companies in gospel didn't do
that would
back
be
then.
quite expensive, too.
Ooh, girl.
That's a lot of people because you know them choirs are big.
So that wasn't deducted from their earnings later?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because I've seen the movies, I've heard the
no, absolutely.
stories about all the entertainers,
absolutely.
and they're ready to get paid, and the manager is like, well,
Right.
you did this.
Right. But we
Yeah.
also, like with one of our big choirs, we took $250,000, gave them that money non-recoupable,
So
and they
that's good.
still did. It's just.
Well, you think you're
it
rich.
is what it is.
Like, oh, 250,000, I'm going to do
people don't
this,
get
and
it.
I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well, we didn't give
interesting.
each one of them that, but we split
Yeah.
that between a lot of kids,
Spends,
and it
money
was still
spends
was a,
fast. Money spends
but
fast.
non-recoupable. So
Right.
we gave out non-recoupable too, but it doesn't matter. And then if once you get really big, you have, especially the big companies, are going to have people get in your ear and tell them you've outgrown this. You need to be over here.
Time
You
to
need to do
move.
this. You need to do that.
And that
Yeah, so
happens. So
it's
you
going
got
to
40
happen.
years in the business.
long
So
time.
what's your sweet spot
My sweet spot with what in terms
within
of
the business that you're in? Like, what do you like? What do you enjoy most?
Right, because you do a lot of things.
my sweet spot is the next big thing.
Okay, whatever.
So whatever.
So what's
wherever
going
the
on?
new
Is there
money's
something
coming
new?
from.
Is there something
Yeah,
new you need
actually,
to tell
I have
us?
a food product coming
Okay,
out.
okay.
I
Vegan?
love doing just very much so.
Okay.
And yeah, I just love staying active and doing something new and watching God work in that, And I think you always have to reinvent yourself.
Sure.
So like we have a show on Instagram called Car Fittable Talks. It's every Thursday at 4 PST time, and we talk to different
What
people.
is it called? Say it again.
Car Fittable Talks.
Car
We talk to
Fittable.
folks in our car.
Oh.
Ticky-tacky little fun show.
Okay.
And, it's all about showing, especially that faith-based people have a lot more going on than just talking about Jesus. Though we love Jesus, we're real people with real stuff we want to talk about. And
Yes.
that we know what's going on in the world today, and we like to really dig into those subjects. So, yeah, that's fun. And my other sweet spot is helping other young people do this well and do better than we did
Sure.
with our company. That's really important because otherwise what my husband and I have done in the industry, which has not been surpassed yet, but we need them to do some. We don't want to be the only ones that did it, because if that happens, then that's very sad.
Yes.
Yeah. But God really blessed us. We probably, I'm sure, had the #1 independent company, even real independent, not vanity label, but independent company in the world, run by a Black woman.
Yes.
But
that's
also
so-
because I have a wonderful husband that wasn't insecure.
That's a
and
good
let me
question.
hold that.
another
Can I
point.
ask her a question?
That's enough. Go ahead.
got a
I'm thinking over here. I have so many questions.
Well, I'm trying
Go
to
ahead,
figure
go
out,
ahead.
like, how did this whole thing that you've gotten into impact you as a Black woman? How were you treated? What did people have to
girl.
say? Were you, treated like a queen?
Looked at me like,
No,
Or
don't
were
say I was treated like a dog. I remember going
said
out
like a
places
dog,
with
yeah.
Kirk Franklin,
Sure.
and people ask me, well, what do you do? I said, I own the label. Oh, you're the manager? No, I own the label. You're the secretary? You're the what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people couldn't comprehend what I was saying, and I had people going, you own it, but Vicki, who really owns the company? I'm like, Negro.
It's me.
Yeah, my dad gave me $6,000
I know that
of his
feeling.
postal retirement money, and we
$6,000.
started this thing.
That is amazing.
Like that.
And how timely for Black History Month. I just commend you for being a Black woman that
Thank
did something
you.
so major. And all these people we know and still listen to today, started, you started this thing,
Yeah, in
for
many
lack of a better
ways.
word, and you have an award. So that just goes to show your impact. And I think it's so important. I just have to say that I love that you're teaching other people, because we
That you gotta
really,
do.
really need to reach back, and give that wisdom, because we go through so many trials and tribulations in life, right? And if somebody would have just
Absolutely.
told us or guided us, or, like you said, you didn't
Right.
have anyone there.
For the most
that's
part, it
amazing.
was very, very difficult. But
important.
I've got a show coming up. I'm on a piece of a show with Dr. Henry Gates from
Oh.
NPR. Yep. we're doing
I
that.
met him once because he
He's
interviewed my
fantastic.
my
Like NPR.
cousin.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're gonna be on there, and for a gospel segment, and then
Nice.
hopefully we're negotiating now, so I can't say too much about it. But we have another show coming on a major network. Praying.
So you have
So-
a food show. You're doing food.
Oh yeah, I'm
You're
into
doing
the food.
a TV show.
And
or a show in the
Carnival
car.
Talks.
Carfitable Talks.
Carfitable. I got to
Got
remember
my
that.
publishing
Talks.
company. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You gotta
Honey.
keep. My mother is 86. She has a cake business that's going crazy.
Keep
that she started
reinventing
when she was in her
yourself.
80s.
Yeah.
You know, you have to keep
Started
it
when
moving.
she was in her 80s.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think
Love
you keep
it.
reinventing yourself.
Love it.
I'm very keen on
Never
that.
stop.
Like
Got to.
constantly reinventing myself, as I do that too. I'm kind of like you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sharon.
I am, huh?
You have to just to keep it moving and trying new
awesome.
things and doing new things.
Do you drive
until
people
the-
crazy though? Do they think, "Oh my God, Vicki is out of her mind. She is
Oh
so
yeah,
good."
a lot of
Me
people
too.
think.
Oh,
but
good.
I keep
Give
my
me some
friends.
high five.
But my friends, we all understand each other, you know. And I
Yes.
don't pay attention too much to other
Yes.
folks. I have a
You have your
tight
core.
group of,
You have your core group that you
I got
deal
some
with.
girlfriends, some real ride or die, and
Yes.
That's wisdom, too.
that's where it is. And we've been
Yeah.
together through ups, downs, all the way around.
Keep your
And I stick
circle
with them.
supported.
You can tell them something, and you're not gonna hear it on the 5
Oh,
o'clock
absolutely
news.
not.
You know,
Keep your circle
that's what I
supportive.
love. That's
And
what
you
I
know,
love.
when you're crying, when money's good, when money's bad, when, like I said, you got to know, you know, when to take care of your friends, when they take care of you. You know what I'm saying? Telling you about this business over here, or this money situation over here, or this bank is doing this over there. Those kind of friends.
and
I
they
mean,
know you. You know they have your back.
and you've got theirs.
Yes.
And that's how I keep it. So
That's
Yes, that's important.
wisdom.
yeah,
That's
I
wisdom.
don't mess around with other folks.
People
if
that
they,
add value to your life, and you can add value to theirs.
and we grow together. So like I have a girlfriend from UCLA. We started at UCLA together. But now she's doing so much. Her name is Lisa Collins. She started with Billboard Gospel. I mean, she was doing other stuff
her name.
before, and moved on. And now she has a magazine called. I think she has a whole magazine and stuff called Gospel Today and some others. But now she's going into politics and helping like. Our new mayor. What's her new mayor's name in LA?
Karen
Karen
Bass.
Bass.
Yes, that's one of her clients, and Gavin Newsom and people like that. She's moved into
wow.
that. And so that's what we do. We keep reinventing. The First Lady's tea is with her. But we found out the other day that when I was at UCLA, I was an intern for Richard Pryor.
Oh, wow.
And I worked on his movie, Adios Amigos, with him, Fred Williamson's film. And that's why when I was a teenager, you know, I did that. Turns out she and her brother put that conference together at UCLA where I met Richard Pryor's manager, Bill Cherry.
Such a small
we
world.
were connected even back then and didn't know
Didn't
it.
even know it.
But you got to have girlfriends and stuff that aren't jealous. They're like,
But you
"Come
know,
on, girl."
that's interesting
Yeah.
because when I hear that, I hear that your footsteps have always been ordered.
Ordered,
And we
yes.
may or may not
Yes.
want to always, you know, I was talking to a lady today and it's like, just pray about it, pray about it. Well, you know, sometimes we do have to pray. And I believe in
Absolutely.
prayer. I believe prayer
Absolutely.
is powerful.
Yeah.
But at the same
Absolutely.
time, faith without works is dead.
You got to keep it moving.
So
You gotta
what,
keep it
what I'm
moving.
hearing you say is that your footsteps have always been ordered,
Most of it.
even when you didn't even know.
Girl, when I started at RCA. I worked with Elvis.
I was
That
gonna
was
say,
my
I heard you
first.
say
Is that where
something
you were
about
the
that.
first intern? Or
I was the
read
second.
about-
I was the
Okay.
second intern at RCA.
Black.
Black.
First.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they had started this program. And I ended up working with John Denver, Lena Horne,
Wow.
Hall and Oates, foreign, I mean, you know, the biggest names you could think of, like I said, Dolly Parton and
I bet Dolly Parton is probably funny.
no, she is to this day the most incredible celebrity I've ever met.
Yeah.
The nicest
her.
person
I do too.
I have ever
seems so
I bet
met.
I picked that up from her energy.
And I had champions too.
So how did you get there? Because you were at UCLA, and then how did you get into this internship and just walk into
It
all
was
this?
crazy. Okay.
I'm sure it's a good story.
We were watching, we went to this place called the Circle Star Theater, and we were watching Tina Turner and Aretha Franklin on the same stage, baby.
No,
Legends.
that
At
was
the
powerful.
Circle Star Theater in San Carlos. I think that's where it was. Anyway, there was a guy named Don Mack who was emceeing it. He worked at KGFJ. I ran up to him on the side and I said, Mr. Don, I will clean floors. I will clean toilets. I will do anything. Can I intern for you? I will be a gopher. I don't mind. I don't mind. Whatever you got for me to do, I'll do it. He said, call me. I called him. I ended up working with people like Lee Bailey and all. And when the internship came around, there were about 1,000 people or so. And there was, oh gosh, don't let me forget his name. This is terrible, and I can see his face. But anyway, there were folks at RCA and all that, and I got the internship. I worked with Dick Griffey. I worked with so many people that had my back. Virgil Roberts, who became my attorney. Just all of these black men.
Powerful, strong black men.
Who supported me. And I'm forgetting this one person's name, and I'm so sorry, and I could say it. Maybe you can put it in underneath a little bit. But so people say, black men and black women. No, darling. I had black men who supported me.
Awesome.
And protected me.
Oh, I like that.
And protected me. So, no, you can't go over there.
I like
no,
that.
you need to stay over here. No, you need to do this like this. Do not be bothered with him. Don't do that. They protected me. There was John's Music and even men from other record companies and stuff, like Gerald Busby and so many others. They protected me.
So you had that shield of protection, that hedge of protection. And even when you didn't know, you probably had it. Did you know?
Oh, I'm sure.
Were you aware?
Sometimes I did not know.
Were you aware?
Sometimes I did not know. Even like Barry Hankerson, you can say what you want, but he supported and helped me out. And now other guys like that, some of them, their backgrounds were not always savory. But guess what?
They took
When
care of you,
people
huh?
wanted, when they tried to do gangsterish things, I had protection.
And there's a
That's
whole
what
lot
you
of that
need,
in
apparently,
there.
in the industry, right?
God will put people
Aligned,
like that.
He aligned you with the right
that's
people.
right. So that doesn't happen. And so those things I didn't understand them then.
But you see it clearly now.
I see it
And
very
you probably
clearly
weren't
now.
supposed to understand it
No.
and see it when you were in the
I
moment.
wouldn't have known.
You know,
So amazing when you look back
Right,
and say,
Wendell
wow,
Bay,
God
Yeah.
carried
so
me.
many people. Yeah,
because that's
back
my
then in the day.
testimony too. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
definitely relate to that. Well, let me ask you, how do you feel that the gospel music industry has changed since when you first got in it and where you are now?
Okay, well, when I started, I worked with the Hawkins and Andre
my God,
Crouch. Oh, yeah,
yes.
that was my crew. They gave me this man's wife, you take this, and she had red nails in her hair, and people were talking about it. Her name was Tremaine Hawkins.
Tremaine
So I
Hawkins.
broke her first solo record, and then I got another first wife, Vicki Winans.
Oh, yes.
And those were projects given just to me
Yes.
to break. But what I did was, I took them, I'd go to the... what was his name? The Jack the Rapper. And I would take my gospel stuff with me. And I would give it to all my urban people that I knew, because that's what I knew more than anything. And I would do that. And then because I worked at RCA and we worked on breaking country music to pop, my brain was, we can take gospel and break it. Not just one record, not just like Aretha, or not just Oh Happy Day, but take an artist and make that artist a mainstay in the mainstream, and that happened.
And
with
boy,
Kirk.
has it happened.
Yeah, I mean,
That's awesome.
we did our part, but I mean, Kirk Franklin is a genius in his own right, but you need that muscle and that care, just like I also had the protection of Interscope. I became partners with them. I had a lot of people messing with me. I said, I know how to fix this. And I became partners with Jimmy Iovine. That's how
It's so funny because it just sounds like your whole path had already been carved out.
I think so.
You did a lot of work. That's
Yeah,
not
but
to be
some of
taken
that
away.
you can't.
But you know what stood out to me
You
that was
can't-
so amazing is when you said, I knew what I wanted, I saw what I wanted, and I said, I will do it. I'll do it for free. I mean, just imagine if you didn't take that
used to
step
do
to
that.
just jump, in there and just ask for it. And then all that
And
came
you
out of
have
that.
to be willing to abase. And then to abound. Because I know I had
Right.
some
Do not
internships.
despise humble
I
beginnings.
tried to have them do some filing. They said, I didn't come here for that. I said, no problem, and don't come back. You want to be in the record business, and I'm letting you look at all my contracts to file, and you can't figure it out. They're all right there, so you can learn those things, but you...
Right.
Do you like all kinds of music?
Oh, absolutely. I was raised on all kinds of music as a child.
Yeah.
Show tunes. My mom was into show tunes really big. And
It's all really very similar, though. You know, you talked about Elvis Presley, and I'm thinking about his music. It's not too far from gospel. It kind of
well,
like,
he actually did gospel.
yeah, I
did a gospel
remember.
record.
But it's kind of like all in the same blend, really.
It's music, and that's what you have to understand first. This is it really is the music game.
It's the music game.
It really is. But then there's the God factor that you have to put in its place and believe and understand that it's more than just the music what we're doing.
Yes, yes.
And but there's a lot with it, and there's a lot of crazy people over there too.
Oh, yeah. Lots of crazy
so-
people in all these industries.
Yeah, because it's the
people.
music business. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Well, I am so happy that you came in to join us today.
Thank you.
And I feel honored just to be here with you in your presence.
Oh, thank
and I
you.
pray that God would continue to cover you and to bless you and to keep you on this journey, because there's still people out there with daggers and all kind of stuff going on. And you
Always.
need to be protected. The
Amen.
angels of the Lord are watching over you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being the woman. This is Black History Month. And this is history
A legend.
taking place right here on Music and Conversation. And I'm so excited that she decided to join us today and that we would be able to speak to you. Because so many people need to hear your voice. So many people need to know that it can be done and that you are here, you know, in this space.
Thank you.
So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. I got so much out of what you were saying, just, about your journey and how you stepped out and how God will bless you, but you have to keep it going and just not
Absolutely.
stopping. And your mom being 80 with the, I'm so inspired. Like, it never has to stop. And a lot of people give up, I think I'm older, you plan to wind things down, but you can still keep going. That's so inspirational.
Well, see, hopefully you've learned enough that you can do it at a different pace.
Right. The wisdom, the experience, and the character building. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It was nice talking with you.
You coming back?
Absolutely.
I have more questions. I have some more questions.
Oh, that's more questions
So when you come back.
Yeah, I don't think that was enough time for us to really get into who
Child, I
she
can
really
talk,
is.
too.
And you
I can
can,
really
and I love it. I'm
I know
so
you
glad.
have some stories in the industry.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're going to
And
be
so
doing a
forth.
whole thing on my stories because I got stories.
Nice.
All right, we're going to take a break. Thank you so much for coming out. And we'll be back in just a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. Vicki Lataillade. We are back. I am so happy here. We've got Morris Media Studios helping us out today. She is the Felicia, the one and only poetess. She is amazing. We are back in her house again. How you feeling over there, Miss Lakesha?
I am feeling great.
And
I'm
I'm
loving it.
Sharon Mackey. I'm the host. Keisha's co-hosting today. And we've got this handsome, fine, amazing young man in the house, Deon Joseph.
Oh, thank you.
Deon is a husband, a father, and I believe you've been in law enforcement for about 27 years?
A long time.
A long time. Telling your age now, huh?
The grades are coming in, so you can tell.
So have you worked on Skid Row and doing public policies and helping our folks out? What are you doing?
I've worked on Skid Row for about 25 of those 27 years.
Sure.
My whole job was to try to create an environment conducive to change so that the influence of the wonderful service providers there, and there are 108 programs there designed to help the homeless, can be stronger than that of the criminal element. Of course, when I first got there, they told me, hey, go out there and crush crime. And I was pretty good at it, but I wasn't making any changes because I wasn't working in a system that supported me in doing that. Mm-hmm. So in essence, I was succeeding in one phase of policing, but I was failing in another because I wasn't seeing a difference. And then by the grace of God, he kind of inspired me to change how I did police work. And I started really trying to understand the people and relate and try to understand who they are and show them love from a place that they were indoctrinated not to expect it, because 80% of them at the time were African American like me. And as a young African American male, I was trained as a young man that the police, white people, everything was my enemy, and America was out to get me. Mm-hmm. So I kind of understood where these people were coming from. So just trying to come with the hammer wasn't going to work, even though...
I was going to ask you what you were doing differently before that.
Well, before I was doing what I was told to do. If there's crime, 30 violent crimes on a block, go out there, find out who did it, and get them into custody. And I was very, very good at it. We had narcotics dealers. We had Bloods and Crips who were operating in harmony to prey on the people of Skid Row, paying off service providers to allow them to go in there and poison people in the hotels. The inside some of the hotels in Skid Row are worse than the streets. That's what a lot of the residents tell me.
That's why they want to be on the street.
Yes.
They're trying to get out of those hotels because they're scared to death.
That's another reason why it's so difficult to house people. They always say if you house people, it's going to end homelessness. That sounds great. But the reality of it is when you have people who are struggling with mental illness, dual diagnosis, sometimes they get worse treatment inside the
You need so many services.
So I went out there and I arrested sometimes 3-4 felons a day. And I was honest. I was professional. I didn't believe in brutality or anything like that. But if you were out there hurting the community, I was coming to get you. But it had an optics problem because all the community saw, because I was a street cop, I was a radio car. All they saw was me pulling up and putting bad guys in the backseat of my car and not explaining myself because I didn't have the time. I had to go to call, next stabbing, next shooting, next drug dealer. So it left a bad taste in people's mouth. So when I was approached to try to go for my new position, my position now, the senior lead position, I was told, this is a position where you're going to have to really get to know your community. I said, what? I was
going to ask you, is it like police work is community work?
Yes.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But it's different.
It's very
so when you
different.
start dealing with the homeless population and the mental illness population, it kind of shifts things a little bit.
Yes.
But those people also commit crimes. How do you delicately handle, how do you transition from being a police officer to a mental illness coach in the field?
You kind of have no choice, primarily because the system is broken on every level. We're talking about the mental health system. I mean, in 1970s, they closed down the asylums. Now, some people went into the loving arms family members. Others ended up getting shipped into the streets, and they became the police problem. They made the police the tip of the spear. And I don't care how much they try to tell you that they're going to change that. That's never going to change because a lot of these individuals are dangerous. So what I had to do was tap into my upbringing. And my upbringing was this. My parents raised, in their 47-year marriage, they raised 41 foster children on top of their 4 children.
How many?
41. 41.
Well, they are to be commended. Let's pause.
First and foremost.
Let's pause just a minute.
Pause for the
they are
cause.
to be commended for
That's
that.
a good job.
Yeah.
That's great.
My mother and dad, they're my heroes.
How did they do that? No.
Faith.
Some folks can't even raise the 1 or 2 they got at home.
Like, wait a minute.
It was their faith in God, which had a lot to do with my upbringing as well.
Strong faith.
Called.
But 41 foster kids, and they all, on top of their 4 kids and 3 grandchildren, and a lot of the kids had special needs. They were sexually abused. Some of them were for lack of a better term, crack babies. Others were
That's the term.
were Nazi kids raised by neo-Nazis, and my mother and father. And I watched how they didn't patronize these kids. You know, they treated them just like they treated us. If I got a hug, they got a hug. If I got in trouble, they got in trouble. And I never had any resentment for it because it was amazing to watch my parents love these kids and heal them in a span of 2 weeks or 2 years, however long we had them. Some of them didn't even want to go back home to their real parents by the time we were done because we made them feel like family, because that's the one thing that was missing in their life. Getting love from a place that they were supposed to expect it, and that was from a parent. But the other wonderful thing my mom and dad did was this. They didn't just leave it at the kids. On the download, they would go and counsel the parents as well. And I don't think they were supposed to do that, to help speed up the process.
How about that?
To give these
That's
kids.
a great tactic, though,
Yeah.
because I think that once you can reach the parents, because there's no sense in really trying to make the kid better if they're going to go home
Back
to
to
a
the same
parent.
environment.
And if you love a child, you have to love and care about. You understand they love and care about their parents, so that's part of who they are.
Yes, so my
That's
parent,
great.
they felt their job was to create an environment conducive to family for the kids when they left our home. So I remember my dad, he ran a construction company, and he hired ex-convicts, people who couldn't get a job because they were black or they were brown or whatever. And he never called them his employees. He always called them his friends. You'll never hear me call a person in Skid Row a hobo, a bum, a transient. You'll always hear me call them. That's because of my parents. And then also my parents fed the homeless for 10 years religiously up until my mom passed away, in 2006. And the way she cared for these people. So it was easy for me. They're incredible. It was easy for me to
Is your father
transition.
still here?
No, my father passed on as well in 2015. So both of my parents are getting their rewards right now.
That's right.
And so it was easy for me to transition and finally stop and say, you know what? My parents prepared me for this. So what it gave me was patience. But the other thing that gave me patience was this. In order to help some people, I remember my mom said, you can't save anybody if you forget where God brought you from. I'll never forget that as long as she says some very profound things.
You can't save anybody if you forget where he brought you from.
Yeah, don't forget, if you want to save somebody, don't forget where God brought you from.
Okay.
So that rang in my ear in 2005 when I first got the elevated position of senior lead officer, because at first I was like, I'm going to go do the same thing I've always been doing, but it wasn't working. So God spoke to my heart and says, no, you got to reach these people. Take the time to understand my children. Those are his children. So that's what I did. So I looked back into my own life and I said, you know what? I've experienced trauma, not to their level. I'll never sit here and say that I experienced trauma on their level, but I've been abused as a child, and I had so much abuse from loved ones, not my parents. My parents were the greatest people in the world, but sometimes they had to go grind. So I was left in the hands of loved ones and I was abused pretty horrifically. And even at a school, I was physically and emotionally abused. So I learned throughout my life, it's very hard for me to make friends because I don't want to get close to you and then you turn around and hurt me. So if that happened to me, what do you think's happening to these people who've been on the streets for 20, 30 years?
Oh, all kinds
They're
of
getting it every day.
madness. Oh, yeah.
So what it taught me was the most important word in policing, and it's patience. I had to be patient with these
Most people
individuals.
don't have patience.
Most people don't, and that's natural. That's natural.
Well, so I know this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I know everybody's talking about Tyre Nichols that was beat by the 5 police officers
It
and
was a murder.
ultimately killed.
Yes.
Yeah. It was terrible.
It was horrific.
What do you say about these things? Because somebody isn't teaching somebody something if these types of instances, if we'll call them, keep occurring. What do you have to say about that?
Well, before I say anything, I want to say my deepest condolences and prayers to the Nichols family. That was not police work.
No.
That was not the norm.
Community service out the window.
That was a crime. And how those things happen, and I know some people want to point to racism and systemic racism. I feel like before we jump to that, let's try to find the other reasons first, because when you jump to that, what you do is you emotionalize an incident and once you emotionalize something, you have trouble finding solutions. My dad always said, think with your head, and I would try to let your heart lead the way, but think with your head, not your heart. So with these guys, what I feel, based on 27 years of experience, A, they were thugs. B, there was a lack of training, and from what I'm now hearing, the hiring process has been watered down. because I guess they were short 500 officers, and that's huge. So they were lowering the hiring practices of individuals, and some of these guys had 2 or 3 years on, and they weren't well trained. So when things didn't go their way, they relied on what I call their primal nature. If this twist lock
This is how we do it in the hood.
if this twist lock isn't working, if this taser isn't working, then let me just go straight hood on this guy. And what happened? I'm
That's
sorry,
scary.
there is no excuse, because a lot of people, I get into arguments with some people who say, well, you get the crowd that says, well, he should have just complied. Look, in most cases, I'll agree. In this case, he didn't have a chance.
Well, I would have ran
Did he
too.
not comply? I didn't want to really look into it too far because I was just devastated from
Yes.
I'm still not over the other ones.
Right.
So I didn't, but from what I understand, he was saying, what did I do? And he was.
Well, if you go from the start of the video, I don't know what happened prior to
Yeah, I
the
didn't-
start, but you see the officer runs up to the door and just opens it and just yanks him out. There was
Right,
no
so what's
giving him
comply?
commands. There was no waiting to assess
How do
to
you
see
comply to that?
see what's going
I'm
on.
running.
with the
I'm
guy.
out of here. I'm
At
leaving.
that point, it's a spear takes over and you're trying to
It's
survive.
human nature.
Yeah.
It's human nature
Right.
to be afraid in that instance.
Sure,
and
sure.
And then when they chased him the second time and they caught him,
So how
I
do we
was sick
change
inside.
this? I know you said maybe one thing is more training, education, maybe some kind of maybe a evaluation, because it just seems like, and I don't know, I get really perplexed when I'm talking about this because sometimes it almost seems intentional. Like, did you set these guys up to fail on purpose? Like, what is going on?
Well, and I'm going to give the most honest answer I can give anybody on this that I talk to, and I speak all across the country. And this is this. We're going to see this again. And the reason why.
And again and again.
And the reason why it has nothing to do with the job of policing. Listen, police officers are what we call a microcosm of society. And what that means is you and I both agree that the majority of people in the United States of America, out of 330 million people, are decent human beings, whether they're black, white, gay, straight, Christian, Jew, Muslim, even devil worshiper. I know a devil worshiper who's a really cool person. Most of the people, I don't agree with what they subscribe to, but she's really cool. Had coffee with her once. She's great. But
A lot of atheists too.
a lot of atheists, people like that. Most of America, decent people. We can all raise our hands and agree. We can also agree that there's a negative exception of our country that exists that breaks our hearts, that gets all the negative media attention, that gets all the clicks and all the likes and all the media attention, right? And that's a very small sect of America. Maybe low 100,000, maybe low millions. Now we can agree with that. We can agree with that. But where do law enforcement agencies hire their people from? The American public. And most of the time, I guarantee you, they're going to choose people who just want to do a good job. They want to change lives. They want to help people. And they're imperfect beings doing it. But every now and then, yes, you're going to get individuals who had no business. And no background check can find that out,
That's
until
true.
they rear their ugly heads.
So what happens in the academy? That should be kind of like because they go through a process, right?
Yeah. There's a weeding out process.
Should be like some kind of
It's like the first day, I remember the black line that we call it at the academy when I first showed up, 12/26/1995. I stood on the black line at the academy, and they had all 83 of us lined up, and our training officer were in our face, yelling and screaming at us, calling us all kind of names, and you had I think 4 or 5 people quit right there. I'm glad they quit.
Ooh,
you know
that
why they quit?
sounds-
Because they couldn't take it. If you can't
That
take it
sounds
right
traumatic.
there,
I
it
couldn't.
is.
Don't be yelling at me.
Yeah, and I had to check myself because don't nobody talk to me like that. But my
Nobody
daddy.
talk to me like that.
Great test in humility.
So now you're telling me they're training you to be like this.
No. What I'm telling you, they're trying to see who had the weakest mind, who was going to break.
If you can control yourself.
Because if you break it here, you're going to break in the street and say something crazy
Correct.
to a citizen, or you're going to.
But what happens when the opposite happens?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
start yelling at me, I'm yelling back.
Yeah, so you had to show a little bit of prove a little self-control there.
Right.
So in the academy, it's kind of like what
That
surprised
probably
me. What surprised me about the academy was, before I became a cop, I heard everything from my family. They were like, "Oh, they're going to teach you to hate black people. Oh, they're going to teach you to black people." I heard everything, and I was terrified.
That doesn't happen though.
No.
Tell me that doesn't
No,
happen.
it doesn't.
Okay. 'Cause I never thought that, but
literally in the academy, I learned more about Spanish and human relations than how to keep my head from being blown off in the streets. I was surprised at how, and this is post Rodney King, so it seemed like the department was more open to hearing what I had to say. So when it came to talking about the feelings of the African, I was surprised at how open I was able to be, and I didn't get any blowback from it. It's like, wow, that's how you really feel? I said, yeah, this is how I felt when I got racially profiled too, and nobody blacklisted me. And then, but the real thing that happened was when I got into the field. Because in the academy, all their stress was, look, if you do this, if you hit somebody, if you hurt somebody who's in handcuffs, if you're a brute, if you plant dope, if you don't have integrity, you don't just hurt yourself, you hurt the whole department. And then you hurt the citizens when the department gets handcuffed and we can't police them the way we know we should because of what you did. That's what was preached to me for 7 months where I work. So all that stuff about the department training you to be a racist against that in police in my agency, not true.
Didn't happen.
But then came the probation. And when I got off on probation, I ended up working with this department legend. And his name was Bill Snowden. And he was everything my family told me to be afraid of. He was a 6'4", sandy blonde hair, blue eyed,
There he
white
is.
cop.
You're like, there he is.
There he is. He arrested everybody and their mother in a black town called Oakwood in Venice. Back then it was black before it became gentrified. And I'm sitting here terrified. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go out with this guy and my own people are going to hate my guts.
Around what year was this?
This was 97, 96,
Okay.
96,
All right.
96.
Okay.
And I get in the car with this man and we're driving through the hood and I'm looking at this guy like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm looking at the community and I hear this. What's up, Snow? Hey, Snow, God bless you, Snow. Thanks for helping my cousin, Snow. Hey, thanks for looking out for my friend in jail, Snow. And I'm sitting here like, what is going on
That
here?
stereotypical
I'm like,
conversation went right out the window.
yeah.
Right?
But I was scared. First, I was like, is this guy has such a relationship where he scares the community so much that they say hello to him every morning?
You're trying to process it.
I was trying to process it based on everything of the stereotypes, and we'll talk about that in a second. So he pulled the car and says, "You look like you got something on your mind, young man." I said, "Yes, sir. You arrested 2,300 people in this area over 14 years. Why do they love you?" He said, "Deon, whether arresting them, saving their lives, counseling them, or whatever, as long as you treat them with dignity and respect, they're going to love you because they know why we're here. Oakwood is a dangerous area. And as long as you work with me, young man, you will treat every human being we contact with dignity and respect." And it wasn't that he needed to teach me that. It just affirmed what I always wanted to be. And it disrupted the stereotype of cops who were of different colors. And I remember Dr. Pam Wiley. I don't know if you ever heard of her. She's an incredible hero who helps young men on the spectrum of autism. And sometimes I go mentor her. Look her up. And she gave a speech, and she said this. She says, "In the absence of meaningful contacts, we tragically rely on stereotypes of one another." And that made so much sense, and that's what made me think of Bill Snowden at this moment. I relied on the stereotype. Mm-hmm. And I've met cops who are Asian, black, white, gay, straight, Christian, who are really brilliant, incredible human beings doing a tough job. But I've only worked with a few in 27 years who were the stereotype. And that's why we need those meaningful contacts.
Well, we meet those people every day, too. They don't have to be cops.
No.
Right?
Every profession.
They're everywhere
I have
all
this
day.
conversation when people, "Oh, you cops murdered 1,000 people in 1 year across the country." Okay. Well, doctors killed 450,000 in 1 year. Most of them were people of color. And
Keisha, she's in the medical field.
I'm not, but I still go to the doctor, though.
Right. And I'm the one that treats you like,
Yeah.
you know, I treat everyone.
Yeah,
I totally relate to what you're saying. Because
Yeah.
even in my career, I see the doctors that are kind of nervous about certain type of patients.
Yeah,
And I just go in like, let me talk. They're being difficult outside. I'm like, I'll see them.
And you know why some people are being difficult? Because all their life they've been dealing with nothing but disrespect.
Right.
And I recognize
wow.
that being from the
People
black
aren't
community.
listening to them.
People
Like, what do you
listening to
need?
them. Because people didn't listen to me when I was a young man.
I've had people say to me, "Why are you so nice? Why are you so happy?" Well, because isn't that how everybody's supposed to be? Why is it an unusual thing when you're super nice to people? They freak out.
It depends on the world they came up in. You know,
Yeah.
if they came up in a world full of trauma, seeing you scares them.
Yeah.
It's either if I can't obtain that, I'm going to find a reason to hate you.
Yeah.
And I realized that as a police
That's
officer.
so true. That's good.
And also
That's so
knowing that
true.
it's a lot of people that have been traumatized in this life.
Absolutely.
You know,
Well,
most
I think all people have had
Yeah,
some
most
childhood
people.
trauma.
So
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people, the average person isn't just going to be, forthcoming like that. It's going to be some barriers you got to get past.
And you have to have the strength and tenacity and a lot of prayer to break through those walls.
Those barriers.
And that's just what it is. You have to not give up. I never saw my parents quit on a child. I never saw my dad quit on an employee. I never saw them quit on a homeless person they were trying to help.
Well, I can't say that because I had some folks go off.
No, it's true. I've had people kick at me, yell at me, cuss me. I had a lady, she's one of my favorite Facebook followers now. But when I first met her on Skid Row, she hated me from the rooter to the tutor because she heard the rumors that, RoboCop's out. He hates his own people because he arrests everybody. That was one of my nicknames.
Well, I have a question for you because you said you're married, your beautiful wife.
Oh, yes.
And you have children.
Yes.
Okay. So when you leave, do you still put your gun on and all that to go out in the field to work, or
when I leave and
when you're on, when you're working active duty, you're working?
When I'm active duty, yes, of course, I'm fully armed.
So
yes.
your wife watches you leave the house fully.
Oh
geared up?
no! When I leave, I'm in plain. All my stuff is in my locker.
Okay, so she doesn't see you in your uniform.
She sometimes comes and sneaks a look because she likes the way I look. So she'll
Yeah.
come by and sneak a picture.
I understand.
Sometimes she wants me to bring the
I'm
uniform
just trying
home.
to figure out how a wife lets her husband go out and fight the city every single day. That's really where I was going.
She's my ride or die. Let me tell you something. Her whole family had experienced trauma from the agency I worked for back in the 70s.
Okay.
They experienced so much trauma. I mean, her mom was kidnapped by the police, back in the valley.
What?
So when I met her and her
I
family...
knew there was a story.
Oh, yeah. When I met her, her mom, that she loves me to death, but her whole family, like, don't let those white people change you. Don't let them white people do this and this and that. I'm like, wow, I haven't even got on a job yet. You guys are already on me. And that was her way. She was always on me. And what I love about my mom was that she taught me how to love. What I love about my mother-in-law is she taught me how to stand up for myself. And that whole family came from me. So my wife, what I loved about her is no matter what, she stood by my side. When I went to orientation, she went with me and sat in the stands with me. She said, I'm with you no matter what. I don't care what people say to you. I don't care what people say about you. You're a good man, and I know you're going to be a good cop. And I was like, wow.
I love that.
I'm gonna cry.
I know, that's beautiful.
Talk about a black
That's
woman.
awesome.
a real black
But
woman.
I was thinking, I don't know, being married to a policeman, law enforcement, every day there's challenges.
There's challenges.
Do you ever get shot at? Have you had to take somebody down?
Oh, I've had to take many people down. By the grace of God, I've worked in some of the most dangerous areas in the city, and I haven't been shot at yet. Now, I've nearly shot several people, but I just feel like by the grace of God, by that last millisecond, the person put the weapon down or something like that, because I don't want to
Drop your weapon,
and
right? Drop your weapon. And they're like, no.
Especially out there with the homeless,
it's so
the mental health.
You just don't know what you're going to get. You
I always
don't
say,
know what you're going to get.
I always say,
Are the streets getting worse to you?
Yes.
Things are getting worse.
Things are getting worse.
So what can we do to combat this?
Well, since I'm not in uniform, I can say this. Be careful what you vote for.
What you what?
Vote for.
Vote for.
And who you vote for.
And who you vote for.
It's going crazy.
Because, and I told people when they, AB 109, Prop 47 and 57, when those things were passed, I said, if you guys vote for this stuff or support these things, you're going to lose your community and we won't be able to get it back. Because you can complain about crime all day, but what good is it if I keep arresting the same burglary suspect 6 times and he just gets out the next day or within an hour? And that's the way the laws are set up now because they are considering the justice system racist. Right. So they bought into that theory, and out of the sake of not seeming racist, they won't keep really dangerous criminals in jail. And now it's even more difficult to deal with quality of life issues under that same assumption that somehow if I enforce the law, that's hurting individuals because of who they are or their socioeconomic status. And unfortunately, people have bought into that lock, stock, and barrel, even our politicians. And there was a time where our politicians would say, look, that's nice, but I'm not letting the city go to heck in a handbasket. Now they're all just all into the critical race theory, to all this other stuff. They're buying lock, stock, and barrel.
Should we be scared?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
be scared, y'all.
And I'm telling you this from a place of love. Love, be afraid, be careful what you vote for. It's very difficult for us to start. There was a time where we had Skid Row relatively clean and safe. From 2005 to, because they let us do our job and the justice system supported us. We separated the wolves from the sheep. We separated them from we got an injunction barring drug dealers from the area, and Skid Row, believe it or not, actually got better and safer. But when those things got reversed, now it's back to what it was when I first got there.
Where are the people that, what? So what were you doing with the people that are there now that's doing all this? Like, were they in jail, getting put in jail?
Yeah,
were they?
Yeah.
So they were in prison.
Yes.
But now they're letting them out of prison.
They were being sent. If you committed a violent crime or you were a drug dealer, you're getting arrested 3 or 4 times. They actually did some time. If they're on parole or probation and they violated their probation or parole, they actually had to go back and do their time. And that had nothing to do with race. I always tell people, if you look at a map of where I work, let's say October of 2017, there would be so many dots, and those dots represented crime, that you couldn't see the whites of the map in one particular area, and that was Skid Row. Now, nothing to do with racism. That has everything to do with data. You know, in Chinatown, there was no dots. Does it say that Chinese people are better than African Americans? No. We can't control the demographics or the level of crime that happens there. We're not in Skid Row because of the color of their skin. We're there because if we're not enforcing the law, people actually die. And let me give you some statistics, okay? I can give you all the anecdotal stories in the world. In 2005, 93 human beings in a 50-block radius called Skid Row died from non-homicidal deaths. We're talking about overdoses, long-term drug use, just taking young, old people completely out. And if you fast forward to 2009, 1 year where we were really heavily enforcing, and it wasn't just enforcement, it was enforcement, enhancement, and outreach, 63 people died from non-homicidal deaths, but we only found 5 in the street because if we were able to see them, we were able to save them. The predators who were preying on them were in jail longer, and these people had a better environment conducive to change. Now let's talk about murders. We can talk about non-homicidal deaths. Let's talk about murders. In 2002, 54 people were murdered in Central Division. 35 were murdered in a 50-block radius. That's a lot of people were murdered. Now, guess what? The following year, at the inception of our initiative, guess how many people were murdered? 3. So I always tell people, you may not like what I do. What I do is not sexy. If you want sexy, call the fire department. They rescue kids from trees.
They are kind of cute.
They're cute guys. No, I'm just playing. It's fire station. I love the fire department.
We need them though, because I hear them every day. They're going up and down the streets honking, and the alarms are going, and it's a lot happening.
So we're so jaded by and devastated and traumatized by all these police brutality killings that you're saying we're not really looking at the facts. Right. So we're just like, just stop putting people in jail. Just stop touching
if we
people
just stop
because
all,
you're killing them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sad.
And that's sad.
Well, the
sad
sad part too. That's a good point, Lakesha. But also, you're letting them out without a real plan.
Exactly.
There's no real plan.
Right.
Exactly.
So we've got already people on the street that are homeless, and then we go and we let out more people from prison who may have done 20, 30. What are they going to do? How are they going to be productive if there's no plan?
The public was lied to. Prop 47 was touted as the Safer Streets and Neighborhood Act. Of course, if you're not a police officer, you don't see what I see, you're going to vote for it because of the title. And so I don't fault the public for that. But in that plan, they said they were going to have programs waited for these guys. The programs were impotent at best. And then when they got out, most of these guys, what they do, they fall back on what they knew because they didn't come out to services. They didn't come out to housing. So they fell back on committing crimes. And then when they realized they weren't getting sent back to jail, they end up committing those crimes twice as much. And then comes Prop 57, which turns violent crime, violent felonies into non-violent felonies. Let me ask you a question. If your female friend or loved one was at a bar and someone put a date rape drug in her drink and they took her home and sexually assaulted her while she was unconscious, do you consider that a violent crime?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Under Prop 57, what Californians voted for, that is no longer a violent crime. So even though it's still a felony.
So I have a hard time with these laws because you vote on one law and it has all this other stuff in it, but you vote on the other one, it also has some things in it. Yeah. So it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. What do we need to make better laws? And we need to have better programs. Yeah. I do believe in rehabilitative programs and transitional programs, and I think that we need to really invest
and I think we need people like Deon Joseph who's going to come out and explain in detail what's actually happening because when we just read about it ourselves, sometimes we don't comprehend it correctly. Right. When someone else comes and speaks to you, you may not get it totally. So we need more people like you out on the front line sharing information and news so that the community at large can hear exactly what the facts are and vote accordingly.
The issue with that is when people like me try to speak out because the other proponents of those propositions have so much money, they're able to silence people like me so they can get whatever their agenda is out. So I've been trying, but I always get stifled down, you know. But I've been the only one right on this whole thing for years.
Well, your work is not in vain. No. I want to commend you for getting to know the community and getting to know the humanity and the people that you're serving versus just doing the strong arm or whatever. What did you call it? Just getting out there and getting
not strong arm.
No, remember he said before he decided.
The hammer.
Yeah, the hammer. The hammer.
Yeah.
You know, we need people are people, and I think that makes a difference, right? On
You need all of it. You need enforcement, enhancement, and outreach.
Well,
That has
thank
to
you
work
so much for being here today.
Yes.
Lakesha, my co-host, has done a wonderful job today.
Great
You have
information.
really shared some valuable information, and I hope that you all are out there listening and will take it to heart. We're at the top of the week, so we still have another few days this week to get it right, right? So
Right.
enjoy your week. Be safe out there, and thank you so much, Deon Joseph,
Thank you.
for being here with us. We appreciate it.
so much.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Happy Black History Month.
Black History Month.
Music and conversation.
We're out here.